It is the Anfield Wrap after Liverpool won by 5-2. 5-2. Exceptional stuff, exciting stuff. 7 goals at Anfield and a fair bit of end-to-end action as well over the course of the 90 minutes. I want to talk about that as well. Was that a deliberate choice by Liverpool? What was the direction of travel there? And obviously it's a good win for the Reds in a weekend where Aston Villa have failed to do the business against Wolves, Liverpool's next opponent. That's massive as well. As we record this, Manchester United and Chelsea have not played. So we'll talk about the top 4 picture as we find it in this moment. Look ahead to that game. Look back at West Ham. Some of the individual performances in there as well, but we are in association with Peloton. So with me, I've got Pete, I've got Andy, and I've got Keo. But in association with Peloton, we are partnering with them for a second year, and they are the official strength and cardio partner of Liverpool. They had a new product line last year, which is the Cross-Train series, and it's powered by Peloton IQ, which helps you train smarter and grow stronger by generating self-paced custom workouts, tracking reps, and giving you live form feedback. You can bring your own trainer with you wherever you work out at any moment that you choose to do so. Do check it out on the app, and also we've got our own little group on there as well, and there's other groups that John sorts out. So if you want to be part of that process, think about it. And coming up as well later in the show, we've got Matt, who's an Anfield Wrap subscriber and a Peloton user, who was fortunate enough to win a competition by virtue of being both, where he got to make a video with Liverpool on how they use Peloton at the AXA. A few surprises in that for you coming up as well. Lovely day at Anfield. Andy Bell, Liverpool 5, West Ham United 2. The sun shone. It wasn't warm, let's not get carried away, but we got to see a fair bit of action, and it felt, and I mean this mostly as a compliment, as though it was a good version of a slightly less controlled Liverpool that we got to watch against what is a side in the relegation zone.
Yeah, it's what we call back home an absolute wonder day. Absolute wonder day. Sun split in the trees, lovely, nice temperature. I remember a discussion on the Anfield Wrap recently where would you rather it was 24 degrees all year round or 14 degrees, and it was unanimously 24. I'm 14 all day long, every day of the week.
You'd never guess with the shorts.
Well, exactly, yeah, exactly. Beautiful conditions, just a really nice day at Anfield. West Ham didn't pose an awful lot of a threat. Quite a poor side. I'm not sure if we're going to come on to talk about the relegation picture at any stage, but obviously thankfully none of our business, but I'd be worried sort of based off West Ham's performance yesterday. Don't have an awful lot in midfield, don't cover an awful lot of space, can't get themselves up the pitch. Not an awful lot of threat up front, really. I know the lad Castellanos scores a goal, but it was few and far between. And Jared Bowen, who's been the talisman for many years for them, it seems to me over the last 6 to 12 months that his body's changed slightly, and he's maybe not quite the player physically that he once was. So all in all, it wasn't the toughest game Liverpool will come up against all season. But we've been 3 times to Anfield this season where we've played promoted sides and sides that you expect to be down there, and we haven't won any of those games.
Yep.
So Liverpool do still have to be...
So do you think that was a bit of a choice then to embrace it being a little bit mad? Do you think it's just the scoreboard that they go 1-0 up and that West Ham, it ends up being 2 from a set piece, and West Ham maybe throw a bit of what they've got as a kitchen sink at it? That creates the gap and the madness. Do you think Liverpool wanted it to be... Certainly not like it was against Leeds, where it genuinely felt as though it was 2 sides who were just marking the passage of time rather than attempting to score a goal. So do you think there was a bit more of a choice there from the Reds, maybe even in Vieira's absence, to say, you know what we're going to have to do, we're going to be aggressive, we're going to be front foot, we're going to look to get up the pitch really quickly? Do you think it was a tactical choice or a situational one?
I think it's a really, really obvious point, unfortunately, but it's the early goal within 5 minutes, and Ekitike scored 4 or 5 of those this season already. I think we've scored 5 goals within the first 5 minutes of games this season. Ekitike scored 4. Robertson got the other one against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and that just changes everything. So I always remember that Brighton game where Salah comes back, and obviously we've been really, really poor recently, and we can't break teams down. Ekitike scores within 2 minutes, and all of a sudden it's a different game. Brighton have to come out. There's no element of we have to break them down.
Yep.
There's space there. There's chances for us, and the same happens yesterday. But we earn that because Ekitike scores a lovely goal. It's a really nice goal from Liverpool. Gravenberch finds a bit of space. It's composure at a time where it's a little bit frantic and it's a bit of head tennis. He finds Ekitike and Ekitike finds a finish.
Bit Joe Matthews to Divock Origi.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, actually, yeah. So it's a really good comparison. So, yeah, I think you look at that, and from that point on, obviously the corners we may come on to talk about. Set pieces are a lot better from Liverpool, and we're threatening from those. And Szoboszlai and Salah's corners are incredible yesterday, and we get the second goal. And I wouldn't look too much into whether Liverpool wanted to make it that type of game. I just think they could because they were 2-0 up and 3-0 up, and there was no real jeopardy in that game.
There's no real jeopardy. I think there's a moment at 3-1 here where the ground's a bit edgy because it's gone 3-1. It felt like a bit of a soft one. It felt like, lads, the one thing we don't want you to do, because one of the things I was saying at half-time was you'd be able to make some subs here on 55, 60, and then suddenly when that one does go in, they lose it. So there did feel like a little moment of, you know, don't show an endless capacity for nonsense, Liverpool. Let's just not get down that route. But apart from that, I'd say, and I actually didn't see that period off quite well, the 3-1 Liverpool, there wasn't a lot of jeopardy in the game. I think most people in Anfield felt this is going to end up being a Liverpool win.
Yeah, they did, even though some people still didn't seem to enjoy it as much as some others, in my opinion. You know, it's very often you can score 5 goals and hear groans and moans around the ground. But that's
outright fury in the upper canny, I would say.
People have to start enjoying it, Kieran. They're going to have to start enjoying it. If you can't enjoy a 5-2, go somewhere else.
Exactly, but the reason for that, we want to try and you know, look into why people weren't too happy, is probably because of that little period at 3-0. I was exactly the same as with Andy Eaton at half-time. And I said, this is a perfect opportunity to make some substitutions. You know, we've got a game on Tuesday and a game on Friday. And we've been obviously talking about Rio Ingamoa and on shows and things like that. And I was thinking, this is a type of...
Gomez's first game back. Do you want him to have to do 70 and all that sort of stuff?
Exactly. Frimpong, we want to get him back into the side, get him some minutes. I'm looking at going, this is a perfect opportunity. This is the games where these type of players are coming back from injury, young players, etc., should be getting some minutes. And Andy actually said, let's get through the first 5 and make sure there's no madness. I thought that's a fair point. Let's get to 50, 55 and we can make some substitutions. And then because we've come out and that period of madness, as you put it, has happened, that's probably what's led to people not being too happy. There's a point where Van Dijk could have put it out to Gomez, and the players reacted like the fans. They were going, what are you doing, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I was still all right with it, I'll be honest with you. Even though there was a little period of madness there, I wasn't worried or felt any jeopardy at any point. When we go 4-1 up, I think just before we bring the subs on us, the 2 subs are getting ready, they scored again. Yeah. And there was a little bit like, oof. And then that's where a few more groans started. But ultimately, like I agree with what Andy said, they're a pretty poor side. I would say Somerville impressed me a little bit in terms of their forward options.
Fernandes still plays well in midfield for them.
Yeah, so I mean, they're not totally crap, but I mean, I didn't feel worried at any point.
It's an old Jurgen Klopp quote, Pete, which is the best number 10 is gegenpressing. I think at times in the Premier League this season, gegenpressing has been the best number 6. That's the way other sides have used it. We'll win it back and then we'll just go all the way back and restart and take danger away. We don't want to almost take the chance. But I think Liverpool, in Florian Wirtz's absence, to me, maybe it is just the early goal, but to me, looked more aggressive. Certainly looked more aggressive than it did in those games against Leeds, Sunderland, I think to an extent Burnley. You know, more front-footed, more dynamic, out of possession. And I just sort of wondered if, you know, again, in terms of a go back to basics sort of thing, or go back to last year, in the absence of Wirtz, and we don't know how long that's going to be, you know, do you think that could well be a big part of this for the Reds, which is just to be as dynamic in the middle of the park as they can be?
Quite possibly. I think last week we were all together, weren't we, watching the game, and it was a bit of a blow that Wirtz wasn't in the side. And I always think if I was in that dressing room and we were so reliant on one footballer, and maybe the heads didn't drop, but the performance level was very, very low against Nottingham Forest, and in particular that first half, I'm sort of like, what are we going to do about it, lads? In the sense of, we need to show who we are a little bit, and last season that was the midfield. So the attacking, the front three, obviously not Ekitike, but Gakpo and Salah were past that front three. So a lot of that attacking 5 out of the 6 were the team last season. So there's loads of familiarity where they can do what they were supposed to be doing, what they were doing last season. So yeah, I do think there's a collective responsibility. For me personally, I've been watching over the last couple of months, and as much as we've eulogized about Florian Wirtz, and you like to see him progress, and you can see that he's going to be a fine Liverpool player and so on, I was a bit like, but everything goes through him, and it's a bit predictable, and I don't want to say it's boring in the sense that, like, oh, it's just past the one player, but I don't like the fact that Liverpool are reliant on one footballer, and I don't think that will be the plan moving forward when you've got wingers, hopefully next season, when we sign some in the summer. But it does feel like that. So I think it was refreshing yesterday to see a collective responsibility for that. And I think it was the plan, and I think it has to be the plan moving forward. I also think that at the moment, Liverpool, it's sort of like you said before, Keo, about like people not enjoying it in Anfield. I always remember as a kid, you'd always looked at one game, you just wanted to win that game, didn't you? And I think as Liverpool fans this season, we've gone into the season a little bit where we want to see us win the league title, or we want to see us win a cup, or whatever. And because of what's happened, it's sort of skewed how we view the game now. Instead of just going in and actually
game at a time.
One game at a time. And I think that's what we've got.
It's the last 3 and the next 3 as well, every single time.
Absolutely, and I think you just got to enjoy what it is at the moment. I think you go into Anfield, and if Liverpool have scored, I think Liverpool have only scored 11 in the first 30 minutes in the 40 games previously this season. So the fact that we got 2 in the first 30 minutes yesterday, you've got to be happy with that.
And you can't use it then as, you know, to say, oh, well, it only happens because they get 2, if you know what I mean, Andy. I think you've got to enjoy it. You said before about the set pieces and the delivery. You know, I'm still, and I'd almost like to take this opportunity to say I still don't like it when what's going on with goalkeepers. I think it's almost impossible to be a goalkeeper in these situations. Now, Liverpool aren't here to win any fair play awards. I want to win football matches, so if you're getting away with it, well, we should do it as well. But there's nothing the goalkeeper can literally do where the second's concerned because of the number of players who are in his proximity. All of that said, the quality of the delivery, as you referred to, from both Szoboszlai and Salah from either side was, and has been, I think, recently, just absolutely enormous. I think it's really helping the Reds that those two have just grabbed corners and corner responsibilities, and I think they're running with it brilliantly.
Well, it's this really odd thing because it's that fluted ball sort of that it's in the air forever and everyone knows where it's going to land, but it's about whether you can get your body into position to ultimately win the header as a defender. And first time we did it, from my perspective, from what I could see, was against Sunderland, and I was thinking, these lads are full of absolute groks. The keeper's 6'5". What are we doing here? But we had so much success from it because, like you say, we played the goalkeeper, we get in his way, and the referees aren't giving fouls at the moment, and we get our goal that night, obviously with a Virgil header. Very, very similar. Other side, but very similar goal to the goal the Virgil scores yesterday, the second goal. So it's a massive asset for us, of course it is. It goes without saying. We all know how the league's gone this season with Arsenal and how they've legitimised this sort of really set-piece heavy style of play. And we've all spent more than our lives than what we would wish watching Declan Rice stroll from corner to corner and Coyote walking across the tile to drive the ball. But unfortunately, that's the trajectory. And until IFAB change the rules, we've got to just live with it and maximise it to our advantage. And the delivery has been genuinely really, really good. Szoboszlai puts a couple of brilliant ones in yesterday. I think Salah's delivery has always been underrated until the one on about 80 minutes yesterday where he has a shot because he wants his goal and maybe gets a little bit greedy. But listen, nobody begrudged him that at 5-2. So yeah, it's massive for us, and Virgil coming up with 6 or 7 of those goals a season is huge. It gives us daylight in the game, puts us 2-0 up, and it's allowed to become the game that you mentioned at the start, where it becomes a little bit open. We're allowed to give up some more chances and maybe be a little bit more open ourselves than what we would have been certainly in the post PSV and Nottingham Forest 3-0 4-1 defeats, where it's sort of keep it tight and not very exciting. But we're allowed to make it into that yesterday and get our goal from the set piece, which we have to do.
What the funny thing about the set piece thing, I think, yesterday is, listen, you get to half time, and I think you'd be very kind to say Liverpool deserve to be 3-0 up off the back of what you've seen. But what was striking to me and why the opportunity for set pieces kept coming was they were excellent at working themselves into the West Ham area, needing to be defended, and then suddenly the ball goes behind or it goes out, or there's a free kick, there's a restart of some description, and then Liverpool took advantage of that. But I thought they were really incisive in terms of getting 18 yards away from the goal, Pete. And that means once you're 18 yards away from the goal, defending goes from, I'm just going to try to manoeuvre you into areas, to become a lot more, I need to actively stop you at this stage. And Liverpool benefited from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just felt like every time Liverpool attacked, we were going to do something. I was surprised when I got home and I seen the XG that we were actually less than West Ham because...
Stathbone House is a little higher.
Oh, is it?
It's only a little, but a little higher.
Yeah, because it always felt like, even when they scored the goal, and it's disappointing as it is, and even when they got the second goal, it always felt like we had more goals in us, and I thought we were even going to score more. I think in particular with the set pieces, that is so refreshing to see because of the turnaround, that we don't want to throw the old set piece coach under a bus, but there is now a massive difference. I think I seen a stat yesterday that Liverpool have now scored 7 consecutive non-penalty set pieces in a row, which is just mad, isn't it? Which is a Premier League
Shouldn't where we were at.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Because in where we were at, like before Christmas, we had to sack someone because like we couldn't score a set piece for toffees, you know what I mean?
No, but I do think that that's a clear direction where we're going, in the sense that Slot's bemoaned, and I don't like it, the moaning where the moaning about the opposition and what they're doing and the long throws and stuff like that. I want to see pure football, but at the end of the day, the opposition have agency in this, and I want to see what we're going to do to that. And going back to what I was saying before about enjoying the moments, we've got the latter part of the season now, and Liverpool look like they've taken the situation by the scruff of its neck and said, well, what are we going to do about it, in a sense? And when you said about Virgil scoring all those goals at each season, it's a bit like, lads, we will now do what we can do, because we're not getting bullied on set pieces, and we're going to make sure that we're doing the bullying a little bit. And I think, again, that to me looks like I can see an identity. So it's not the identity I wanted to see Liverpool do. It's not like we're not this swashbuckling football where I've just been away at Anfield and I've just watched this fantastic 5-0 display. But we won, and we're getting results, and I can see where we can win football matches for the rest of the season.
Feeling like they've got wins in the back pocket. I'll say again, you know, it's, and this is why for me I was delighted with yesterday, because of what you saw against Leeds, because of what you saw against Sunderland. I think facets of the Burnley performance, I think other facets were better in the cold light of day. But you know, other sides as well, even, you know, to remember what happens against Wolves, where they get themselves into what looks like a pretty comfortable 2-0 position, and then they end up just going through a pretty difficult second half. They can't pull away. Getting to see that, getting them feeling like they can hurt this West Ham side, they can get around the penalty area, they can commit men, they can, you know, as I said before, at times lose the ball, but lose the ball in a way that helps them, which leads to set pieces. I think it is a big improvement, Keo, and I think it's important that they use this one to build on. They've got another relegation candidate in a couple of weeks in Tottenham coming to Anfield, and I think it's important that they just from here say, well, you know what, we turn these games of football into events, and we back ourselves.
And we are improving. And it's hard to say that because of the first half after Nottingham Forest. People were so angry at that display, and rightly so.
But the manager himself said it's the worst we played all season for 45.
Exactly. The manager himself admits it, but if you actually look at Liverpool and where we were at, you know, I think it was 3 games on the bounce by 3 goals. We were at a point where we were just losing games every week prior to that. We're now at a point where I think it's 2 losses in 20, where it was 10 in 20 prior to that. We've won 6 games out of 7. We're putting results on the board, which is, again, you've got to be happy with this. I completely agree with Pete. It's not the exact style of football that we all want to see. We're not blowing teams away, but it's effective. And everyone wanted to see Liverpool turn a corner. Everyone wanted to see Liverpool improve. Whether you want to have a moan at 5-2 or not, you've got to admit that 6 wins out of 7. The other one was the chaos that was Man City. It's an improvement, and we've got games in front of us now where we're looking at them going, we can beat them, we'll beat them, we'll beat them, and we've got to keep moving. And we've gone from, you know, almost writing the season off and talking about, you know, getting rid of the manager, to looking at 3rd place and go, well, that's going to be ours if we carry on the way we're going. We're still in 2 cups. That's a massive turn of a corner for me. So there is, I understand, you know, Forest was only last week, and I understand that the bad results where we lost by 3 goals was only, you know, a few months back. But you've got to sort of draw a line at a certain point and go, we've asked the manager to sort it out. We asked the manager was moaning about negative set piece balance, and now we've just said, you know, how many set pieces we're scoring. These are improvements. So although it's not perfect yet, hopefully we hit the perfect point when we get to May and we find ourselves in the top 3 of the league, which is, by our standards, not what we want, but we would have snatched your hand off for that 3 months ago, and we have a good crack at the European Cup.
I think when I was in the pub yesterday before the game, and you're obviously talking about what you think is going to happen, what your predictions are, I was saying, well, I think we're going to win this game. I think we're better than West Ham. However, you know, our recent run of form, we've had so many false dawns this season, and the biggest one for me was when we beat Aston Villa and Real Madrid, and then got hammered at City and didn't get out of our own half. And we've had so many of those false dawns this season where you think we might be getting something together, and then it just comes crashing down, and you realise maybe we're not quite the football team we think we are. I think these last 7 games, like you say, Keo, feels a little bit different to that now. It feels like we're actually putting something substantial together, putting something tangible together. And it's a run of form that we need to get now, and at the right time, because, you know, Manchester United, of course, they've got Carrick, he's got a bit of a tune out of them. Who knows how long that's going to last. Liam Rosignol the same. With Chelsea, we need to get these wins together now, because our last 4 games, albeit it's very much agency for us, we play Man City, we play Chelsea, we play Aston Villa, our last 4 games are quite difficult, whereas now, You know, you've got West Ham out of the way, you've got Wolves twice, albeit one in the cup, you've got Tottenham. Like, these are games sort of against teams right at the bottom of the table where we need to be, I think, putting a bit of distance between us, United and Chelsea, or Chelsea really, because we really need to finish fifth, don't we?
And Villa, though, you know, they win.
And Villa, yeah.
I'm going to come on and talk about it when we talk about Wolves, Andy, but it's worth pointing out now that if they beat Wolves on Tuesday, they'll kick off ahead of Villa. Which again, if you go back 6 games, you know, people wondering if Villa could be dark horses for the title. The idea that we've got that turnaround that quickly, you know, and yes, Villa could go on and beat Chelsea themselves, and then it's back to the 3-point gap. But you know, it does feel like a significant step forward.
But we're making light work of these teams as well. You know, yesterday is light work. You know, there's a scare at some point, so we could defend better. Of course we can. We all know it's not going to be perfect this season. It's not going to be 5-0 and, you know, a really sort of low XG for the opposition. It's clunky. It's not perfect. The squad's imbalanced, and it is what it is. We just got to get ourselves to the end of the season, get ourselves back into Europe next season. Champions League, of course, I mean by that. But it's 2 more games now where we absolutely have to get 6 points on the board. It's Wolves and it's Tottenham. And then if we do that, I'm almost certain we'll put ourselves in position. But by the time we play Man United and Chelsea, we'll be above at least one of them. I'd say we'll be above Chelsea by 3 points. I don't think they're going to get anything today. And it may look very silly by the time this comes out, because play Arsenal at 4:30. But now's the time to kick on, put some distance between them, and twist the knife when we play them with 3 or 4 games to go.
I want to talk about some individual performances. I want to talk firstly about the selection. I think there was a bit of what will he do at right back, obviously. I mean, to be fair to the manager and the players really all season, what will he do at right back is your number one question before any team selection, and doesn't feel any way to live. As far as
the only question at the moment, isn't it?
It's constant, because it'll dictate everything else. He goes with Gomez, and Gomez gets 65-70 in the end, Pete. And Gomez is it, the best version, where, you know, he just looks for all the world like a top quality footballer, whether that's at centre back or at right back. I just find him so impressive, the way he can come back into this side so often, and you get the impression, command the respect of his teammates, no one's looking after him, and secondly, just be very good.
When you're thinking who's going to play right back and you see Joe Gomez, you know, I just feel safe automatically. I'm just like, oh, thank God that's boxed, and we can have Szoboszlai in midfield, and we'll just get through the game, and that's exactly what he does. But he also gets forward as well. I feel like he does shore up the back, but he gets forward, and there's this misconception that someone like Gomez can't contribute going forward, and I think he's very neat and tidy, and he's just like an old-fashioned fullback in the sense that when you see Jamie Carragher there years and years ago and different players, I think the fullback has evolved from someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold, that when someone like Gomez plays, you're a bit like, bloody hell, it's night and day. And
I think what's crucial there, Pete, sorry to cut across you. I remember I was sitting in the exact same position for that Sunderland game just before Christmas to yesterday, and obviously Gomez is playing on my side in the first half. That Sunderland game, they didn't want to use him. He was the outlet, and Sunderland very much sort of packed the middle of the pitch, let Gomez have the ball, and our players were very hesitant to use him. I felt like yesterday we were using him, and we were happy to give him the ball. We trusted him a little bit more. Yeah. And that's probably down to his performances over recent weeks.
Yeah, I feel like we spoke about before about the gegenpressing, about being a collective. I think there's a collective overall with everyone, and I think I'm sure we might come on to talk about it. If Liverpool are going to do anything this season, they've only got 14 or 15 players, and the 14 or 15 players all need to contribute, but you need to contribute in each moment in the games as well. You can't just have someone free, like you've just said, on the right-hand side and then not utilise that player. I think Gomez was a breath of fresh air coming in. I'm going to reiterate, I did feel safe in playing there. I had no qualms about it at all, because he's our longest serving player, isn't he? He's always had the quality. The only issue is the fact that can his body sustain the continuation of playing football games, but at the moment we've only got so many left, and he's got a vital part to play in the rest of the season. It released Szoboszlai in midfield as well, and I think without Szoboszlai in midfield, you're looking at McAllister and you're looking at Gravenberg, and you're thinking, can they press in the same type of way? If Curtis Jones is on the bench and he was then had to play, I don't think that makeup of the midfield is quite the same. So I think you had to have Szoboszlai in midfield if you haven't got Wirtz there.
It becomes the logical step that obviously Gomez plays right back, Szoboszlai's going to play, and he's going to move forward. With Gomez, the other thing I think he does well, or did well yesterday, was when we talk about him as a right back, he just has pretty solid 8 out of 10 right back movements. Knows when to go overlap, knows when to come and just play support, knows when to back Szoboszlai up. Szoboszlai himself knows, well, Joe's gone, I'll sit a little bit deeper. You know, no one's trying to reinvent the wheel, and I think that's absolutely fine. You know, you're playing West Ham at home, you're someone who's a good footballer, who's doing sensible things over and over again when you got the ball and when you haven't. There's a lot to be said for it.
think that's what Pete's getting at by the sort of classic right back, even though he's not the right back of the early 2000s. He's a more of a traditional right back than Trent or some of the other wing backs that we've seen in the league. I completely agree with you. The way he comes in, no matter how long he's been out, and looks so sure and has so much quality. And I'm just made up as well, to be honest, that the manager's played him, because we've had conversations around that he doesn't play him in case he gets injured. Now, it's obvious, like, there's been times where that is the case because of personnel, etc. But I was hoping that once the sports scientists turn around and say, yeah, he's okay to play, that he puts him straight in at right back and we get a defender at right back and we get Szoboszlai back in midfield, and not this sort of, we can't play him just in case because we might need him at centre back or this. He started the game and he's, as you say, no one's looking after him. He played really, really well, and hopefully we can find a bit of form with Joe Gomez in the side. Obviously Frimpong's back now, but I don't know whether he'll be straight back in on Tuesday.
Well, what it gives us, Andy, is it gives us a little bit of, game to game, if you can keep both of them fit, and you can alternate the position, depending on game state, depending on, and the best game state is Liverpool are 3 goals clear, let's be clear about that, but depending on game state, depending on moments, you can use them to be what Liverpool need at any given moment. If you start Frimpong in a game because you want to get ahead, you can choose to shore it up by bringing Gomez on. If you want to start Gomez because you want a safer pair of hands for the period, you can then bring Frimpong on. If you want to, and then, as I say, there's just simple, obvious rest and rotation. It's a nice balance, that, for the manager, I think. If he can keep the two of them in harness from now until the end of the season, Liverpool have got a bit of a Swiss Army knife situation at right back without having to look at Jones or Szoboszlai. They can just look at these two.
Yeah, albeit it was a very different version of Joe Gomez. I think what we forget sometimes is in the new camp in 2019, he goes Joe Gomez at right back over Trent Alexander-Arnold. Trent starts on the bench that night. Trent's one of our best players that season, but Jurgen opts for that safety of Gomez, and that's how much he trusted him. And Gomez had a fantastic game that night, despite the result. I think plenty of our players did, bizarrely. But very different Joe Gomez. Obviously, he's had injuries since then. He's maybe not quite the same physically, but the same safe pair of hands, the same intelligent footballer that you see right there. And not only do I think you're right in that it gives us a little bit of an option. And if you want to sort of go for it, you go Frimpong. If you need that pace, you go Frimpong. If you want to maybe safe pair of hands, you go Gomez. Then you just need to look after Frimpong until the end of the season. We know we're not going to see Conor Bradley until the end of the season, or until next season at least. So you really want to look after Frimpong as our only out-and-out right back in the team. So for me, I'm sort of looking at these next couple of games, and yes, obviously I want to see Frimpong play right back for Liverpool as much as I can, but I also want to make sure he doesn't pick up these injuries, because the thing you have to note is he didn't really pick up injuries at Leverkusen. He's come in and he's picked up 2 or 3 separate injuries for Liverpool this season. Now, loads of caveats to that. We play a League Cup here. You play 4 less games in Germany. Obviously, you're playing more games in the European Cup now. There's loads more football, and I think we've seen plenty of our players coming over from Germany maybe struggle a little bit to adapt to the physicality of the league. Wirtz and Ekitike being clear examples of that. And Frimpong no different. That's probably why he's picking up these injuries a little bit more. So I think just look after him. Make sure he's not out for another couple of months. If we need to do Joe Gomez for 90 minutes at Wolves at right back in the Cup, it's fine. It might be a little bit clunky. We might have a lot of the ball. He might see a lot of the ball. He might not do an awful lot with it in an attacking point of view. But the greater good is to get Frimpong on the pitch and using Frimpong when we want him.
Also the Champions League as well, by the way. I mean, 2-legged fixtures in the Champions League. You're protecting results. You could have a lead. You might get that lead by using Frimpong and his attacking prowess and getting goals on the ball. But all of a sudden, you want that more traditional right back, that safer option. Who, by the way, is, when we're saying this, we're not saying that you can't play football. That's the beauty of Joe Gomez. He is more of a solid defensive right back. But he's got great feet.
Well, sorry, I just take away. I think you're talking about Europe. I think that Galatasaray away game, that hostile environment. You know, if he goes Joe Gomez at right back there, like you say, you just feel safe. You just feel like you can hang your hat on him. You feel like he's not going to let us down. We're going to get that solidity, that security. We're not going to concede more than really 1 goal in that game like we didn't in the first game, and that's huge away in Europe, because we're going to have to go there. We're going to have to go places. It's going to be hostile, and we're going to be on the back foot quite a lot of the time, especially the side of the draw we're on if we progress in the Champions League. Joe Gomez could be a massive asset for us there.
I just think we've spoke about how many times you can pull a blanket each way, but the Swiss Army knife thing there, you're saying, Neil, it gives you the option of Frimpong further forward as well, because if Gomez is fine to play 90 minutes and we'll go on to Salah, I'll give you that option to bring him on at right mid and give it a bit of pace going beyond in that attacking third. So it gives you that option as well, and something that the opposition don't know what's going to happen. Mo Salah's been playing for Liverpool for so long that the opposition can set up and try and nullify him with Frimpong. It's a bit of an odd one, a bit of a mystery one. They don't know what Liverpool will do if he does play further forward.
What's about Gakpo and Kirkers together, Pete? I think there's been a lot of jokes made that the relationship looked like it was just never going to form. I think increasingly it looks like it is forming between the two of them. There was good examples of them dovetailing in the first hour, I thought, yesterday, the two of them as part of that. The Gakpo thing is, I think, for a number of people in the ground, there's actually still a fair amount of output from Gakpo, just not as much as you want from a Liverpool winger. Yeah. You know, you compare him to the rest of the league, he's actually all right, and he was all right sort of advisedly, but it's still, I think, seeing so much of it, and when he does what he does and it doesn't work, I think people grow increasingly frustrated. But you know, I think yesterday, I think he plays perfectly fine. I thought it was also interesting how much time he spent at centre forward in the second half yesterday as well. Like, that was something that's been looked at too. But that relationship with Kirkers, I thought yesterday in the first half, it brought the best out of both of them.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better. I think Kirkers, I'll start with Kirkers, I just think he's been a lot better over the last few months. He's someone like, I was watching him yesterday and I find it hard to criticise him because of how much improvement he's made, and he is like a proper little Duracell bunny. He's everywhere, and maybe a little bit too much in a sense, which to his own detriment, he gets a bit too close at times. So, but at the same time, I was watching him thinking he doesn't attack like Andy Robertson. I thought that maybe that's how the problem is that I'm viewing him. He just doesn't attack how I normally see a left back. We spoke about right back before, didn't I? That maybe I've brainwashed myself of what a left back should look like going forward. But with Gakpo, I think what we're forgetting to mention with Gakpo as well is that he's just lacking confidence. When you haven't been scoring goals for that a length of time, I was heartbroken for him when he missed that chance that he should really put away. I think part of his problem is he didn't cut inside for it. He should have taken a touch and cut inside, shouldn't he? But he works hard, tirelessly. He's for me, I always thought over the last couple of years, he's the player with a lot of character that stepped up in big moments. There was League Cup games away, I think it was away at Bournemouth or home at a certain point, stuff like that. He was the guy that always come on and he'd get you that goal. And I think him getting that goal yesterday, although it was a bit fortunate, will make him come on a little bit more and we can rely on him more in the rest of the season. But he is going centre forward as well, and I think that's because you're looking at Rio coming in now at various points in the game, and if he can go centre forward, because when Ekitike
I think it's interesting that you used Ekitike at the left. Like, I wondered if he was having a little look at something the manager saw, the way the game state was with 3-0 up at half time. Looked to me second half, like Ekitike does do a fair bit of that second half off the left, and maybe it was as much about, let's see what it looks like with Ekitike out there as anything else.
Yeah, quite possibly. It might be just because the number 9 position is just so physically demanding.
Maybe because the number 9's coming back.
Well, that's
yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
And it might be because of that. We're all looking at that, aren't we? I was driving in today listening to Sunday Supplement, and they were talking about Ekitike is that good that he should just be the Liverpool number 9, and he's certainly good enough, and we all know that. But and they were accusing Liverpool of not having a plan, but surely you don't sign Hugo Ekitike and then spend all that money on Isak and not have a plan. I can't accept that to be the case. And Ekitike has had success, although limited success, playing for France as the national team. So, and he does look like a proper footballer. Jamie Carragher said this week, didn't he, that the difference between him and Torres is that he's more of a footballer. He's definitely capable of playing out there, and I'd love to see it. I was waiting to see it the whole season that they would play the Salah on the right, Isak up front and Ekitike on the left. We never really got to see it. I think we got maybe 10 minutes at Tottenham and it worked well at that moment, but it wasn't to be.
Until he broke his leg.
Until he broke
scoring
his leg.
a goal.
Scoring the goal. Well, that sums up our season a little bit, doesn't it? But we can't feel sorry for ourselves. If that is the case, how exciting would that be? Because if you got Rio coming on as well in the latter part of the season, but if you got Isak back, I think that is night and day the difference.
I don't know how far away Isak is, but we're seeing pictures of him in training. You know, putting weights on the leg. He won't be long before he's running. Won't be long before he's back on the ball. It'll come round fast, and I do wonder whether there is a little bit of that using Ekitike out there while we're 3-0 up to try and get him a little bit more experience, with Kirkers behind him and playing slightly on the left for Liverpool. I think the plan is, though, to have 2 top strikers. That's the ultimate plan, and the problem is then fitting them in. But I want Liverpool to have 2 top strikers. This argument that, you know, why did we sign Isak when we had Ekitike? We need we need defenders. We need this. I want 2 top strikers for Liverpool, and I feel like we've got them. And I just made up that Ekitike is looking as good as he is, because I think I've said this before on several shows, he is slightly more versatile than Isak. I think he has more strings to his bow. I think he's got better feet. I think he's more skillful. Obviously, we know what Isak does in front of goal, and that's why he'd be primarily the 9. But if we can get Ekitike fired and slightly off him and working with Kerkez, then, you know.
The main men at Liverpool over the past 8-9 years have been the wide men. So putting Ekitike on the left-hand side isn't the worst thing in the world. If he does anything like what Sadio Mane did, we're in for like a treat, aren't we? So I think I've got no qualms about that at all.
One of the things that I certainly noticed, that we all noticed last week at Nottingham Forest, was that Liverpool couldn't get out, and people talked about Forest playing quite deep. I don't think they did. I think they really sort of squeezed us and pressed us and showed a lot of energy that obviously the manager has instilled in them in his early tenure at Forest. But I couldn't help but look at it and think, you know, Salah and Mane 7 years ago would have had an absolute field day with where they were playing. Now, obviously, if Salah and Mane 7 years ago were there, they wouldn't be playing like that, and that's part of the thing. But we talked we did a full show on it, and how Salah's perhaps lost his direct pace, and Gakpo's not the quickest over 50, 60 yards either. I think a massive thing yesterday is that Ekitike gets us up the pitch a couple of times. He's got this little knack of the goal he scores against Karabag, where he knocks it round the defender one way. It's the Torres goal in the Euro 2008 final, isn't it? It's the knock it one way and run round the other, and that's massive for us, because a couple of times and this is especially where I felt that the ground was getting very frustrated yesterday, was when Gakpo's trying to break. We've got a bit of space there, and Gakpo just doesn't quite know what to do. He can't knock it and run. He's not an awful lot of confidence in himself to maybe dribble it, and we can't get up the pitch. But there's a couple of times you're looking at Salah, you're looking at Gakpo, and you're thinking, you're not going to get us up the pitch. So Ekitike, you have to be the man to do that. And whatever the plan is when Isak's back, whether we're going to see Isak this season or whether we're going to see him sort of from the start this season, I think just having a little bit of direct pace on the wings and getting us up the pitch is absolutely massive in these games, because it completely changes the dynamic of how oppositions have to set up against us.
When you describe Mane and Salah from 7 years ago, one of the things that they both were, and I think you can sort of use Firmino in this sort of way, they were all capable of being centre forwards. Yeah. Obviously, Firmino played predominantly through the middle. But what I mean by that is, however you want to do centre forward, we'll do it. You want to hit chest, we'll hit chest. You want us to battle for it in the air, we'll do that. More Mane than Salah in that, but we will do that for you as well. But you want us to be able to hold it up, spin, turn, we'll do that for you. And that's why I think when you want to talk about getting out, you know, I think you look at Salah and he's still really happy to compete for anything around chest height and to really fight and fight and fight. You know, for me, the commitment is unquestioned, it's unquestionable. But he's not going to offer you that, and I'm going to spin him and run him for a long distance. Certainly not early in games. I still think it's weird how he almost comparatively gets faster as games wear on because of his conditioning. You know, full-backs are dealing with him, and they're knackered, I think, by the end of the match, and he's still sprinting as fast as he can at the start, and I think that does hurt them a bit more. But, you know, with Gakpo in there as well, and him doing a little bit at number 9, I do sort of, the other part of it was half wonder if the manager's just sort of trying to remind him a little bit, you can play, you played through there as well. Yeah. You can do some of that. You can hit chest, we can hit your head, but having Ekitike, if it is in a wide area, if you've got that in a wide area, that's where I think you're so dangerous, because it's any type of ball becomes a ball that gets you up the pitch. Yeah. It's not only one type, it's not only the runaway ball, it's anything you want. If you can hit him anywhere you want, because he's like a centre forward, but now he's pinning the fullback. I
think Gakpo gets his hand a little bit dirtier yesterday than what he normally does. Yes, I saw him actually fighting for a couple of balls. I saw him jumping and challenging for headers, which, you know, I think we've joked in shows before, he's the smallest 6'3" footballer ever, because he just...
Well, he did it against Newcastle as well. He really battered Trippier against Newcastle.
And this is something that you know, as much as Ekitike has been fantastic this season, I thought, like, early doors, the next step for Ekitike in his development is to get his hands a little bit dirtier, to scrap for those balls. We know he's a silky footballer. He likes to sort of have everything on his own terms. But sometimes you just have to go toe-to-toe with Nathan Collins and take a whack, you know, for example. I think both of them show that a little bit better yesterday. The frustrating thing for me, again, sorry to hark back to last week against Forest, but we did obviously a show where you described him as sort of a 1,500-metre marathon runner, where Salah, you know, your left back may think he's doing very well early doors, but then all of a sudden it's 80, 90 minutes and he's going at the same rate. So I was like, well, if we're toiling with the current condition of Salah for 70, 80 minutes. Why would we take him off? Surely we're doing that to tire them out for those last 20 minutes. And I think you see yesterday, albeit he does get a little bit greedy, but I don't mean that in a pejorative way at all. It's 5-2, I couldn't care less. You know, you see actually he gets a lot more joy in those last 20 minutes because the left back, I think it's Mark Diouf's out there, is absolutely knackered. And I think that's what you'll see sort of more and more this season. As much as
by the way, Malik Diouf's delivery last half an hour of that game it was like he was advertising to be subbed. It was like he just basically was going, lads, I'm finished here. The most I can do is kick it out for a goal kick. Will someone take me off? And he was just left toiling away.
Yeah, there's one really, really bad one. I think I thought to myself at the time, that might be the worst delivery I've ever seen. It's at the top end. He just puts his boot through it. Like, it's a fantastic strike. I've never seen a ball struck that well, but a chronically terrible cross. Yeah, I actually think he has quite a good game ultimately defensively against Salah yesterday. He's a big physical player. He's got a bit of pace about him. But Salah toys a little bit first half, but tires him out and ultimately gets a little bit more joy towards the end. And unlucky not to get his goal in the end, but I'm sure it will come.
Salah is, though, it is difficult. We've talked up a couple of different ways, set piece, delivery, all of that sort of stuff. Again, is it confidence? Is it the the speed question? He was winning a lot of the corners by virtue of being tackled, but you don't want to see him tackled. You want to see him ghosting through and slotting. Keogh, I think he's a little bit unfortunate on a couple of occasions. There's a couple of balls that could just be sort of worked to him when he's in a fair bit of space over the course of the game. But he's also not particularly helping himself from time to time as well with the quality of his finishing. I think we're not used to seeing Mo Salah look in a couple of ways mortal. And more than the idea for me, he's a little bit slower. I think at the minute we're seeing a Mo Salah who's not very confident in front of goal.
100%. I also think part of it's been the way we have been playing and the way we play now as well. I mean, last season was completely different and there was players that were helping Salah a lot more, whereas now people are looking to Salah and, do what you've done in 2018. Make something yourself. Whereas if you remember last season, it wasn't really like that. I mean, Nunez gives him a lot of balls. Liverpool were higher up the pitch a lot more in games. Whereas this season, it's been tougher. We're playing a little bit different. We haven't played great at times, and everyone's looking to Mo Salah to, I want you to go past that man and hit the byline, come in, cut in and score like he used to do. And that's just not the player anymore, I think. Whether we have to accept that, and going forward in the future, he will be a last 20 minutes, half an hour footballer. I don't know. I don't think we're quite there yet, but maybe we are approaching that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying to a 33, 34-year-old footballer that next season you will be our last 20 minutes. You're going to come on and you're going to terrify these. I think he is lacking confidence in front of goal. He's dying to score. I mean, there was one in the first half as well where he cut in, and I think Ekitike was fuming at him for not putting it across, and he tries to finish it. That's a man who just wants to score. I know we've seen Mo Salah wanting to score all the time, but I think at the minute there's a little bit of extra, I want a goal here because it's going to help my confidence and hopefully open the gate a little bit. I don't think he played particularly bad yesterday, by the way. I just think there's a couple of moments where you're getting frustrated because you know what he can do and he's just not doing it every week anymore.
For me, it's definitely confidence. There's no doubt is that when you watch him and, like you said, he's getting tackled in the corner, there's a clear difference than what he was a couple of years ago. But the major difference for me and Gakpo last season and this season is structurally Liverpool are not set up the same way. Yeah. And when you talk about Andy when he had that shot at the end, that was when Frimpong was on. And when Frimpong was on and he was running beyond, it created space. And it was very clear then that Liverpool looked like a better attacking outfit down that right-hand side. And when Rio come on the left-hand side, it also opened the game up a little bit. Salah was brilliant last season. I always described him as the Harry Kane on the right-hand side. And he was picking passes. He's not even getting the joy of that because there's no one running him behind. And I think that's the biggest problem. We talk about Ekitike. When I say no one, Ekitike has, but there's only one option. Liverpool have always had 2 or 3 getting numbers into that penalty area, and he can pick out whoever he wants then, and that opens up everything, opens up the opposition, but opens up his mind in the sense that he's got those options. He hasn't had that, and I think the confidence and then delaying. Sometimes when you do it yourself, you're on the football pitch or you're in your place of work, and if you're not confident and you take that extra second just to make that decision, the ball's gone, the opportunity's gone, that the defenders are back and where they're supposed to be and stuff. And I think that's the biggest difference. I think I don't agree with you, Kieran. I don't think next season he'll be there if that's the case. I think he's...
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I mean...
I get what you're saying. I think...
If you say it to me, I don't think necessarily be unfair. I think if you said it to me, you'd take the piss off.
Yeah, I think superstars these days, they don't grow old, because at the club where you used to see like a John Barnes or a Ian Rush or whatever, sometimes they grew old at the club and now they went to Leeds and Newcastle. But someone like Mo Salah, when you got the opportunity to go, he was the king last season and he felt like the king, and I don't think he feels like that right now, and I think that's really hard to accept, and I think people don't realise the psychological aspect that has on sportsmen. You look at over the years when boxers have retired, Ricky Hatton come out and said it, it's feeling how they feel every day and then not feeling how like that. It's hard to take. I've even noticed the crowd are not singing his name as much. It's quite saddening really. But what he will get if he was to go to Saudi Arabia in the summer is 1,000,000%. He would then feel like the king again.
Completely agree with that, by the way.
So I think I can't see him, and I don't think it's an ego thing. I just think they're conditioned, and that's the way they are, and that's how they've performed. And I think that's why Anfield has been such a great place for him, and I don't think Anfield is the best place for him at the moment.
I think Neil said on the show you're talking about Salah, you can't have the man being the man for so long, and then when he wants to carry on being the man, fume because he doesn't want it. And I completely agree with you. If that is the case, and we're all sitting here going, Mo Salah's more of a 20-30 minute, last 20 and 30 minute football in not every game, but in most games, I think he'll take the piss off. I do. But I just think there's nothing wrong with suggesting the fact that if we're talking about him being most effective when defenders' legs are tired, then that's the direction it's going. Then maybe you might have to have that conversation with him. I wouldn't have it just yet. I do think there's moments left in him. I do think there's a bit of a confidence thing going on here, as we've all just said. Maybe he's a goal or two away from finding a little purple patch towards the end of this season.
It wouldn't surprise you if he scored 8 between at the international break coming, the other side of the international break coming, and then the end of the season, a couple of big matches, and suddenly Salah's got 8. 3 penalties in there. A couple of them he's won himself, but suddenly it wouldn't surprise you if that just sort of emerged. And again, conditioning will be a thing. Players will tire over the course of a season, not just in games. Players tire over the course of the season, whereas Mo Salah will remain in impeccable condition. And I just sort of wondered if that's what we get, but he could just do with one.
We are in the Anfield Wrap studio. It is John Gibbons, and I'm really happy to be joined in person. For the first time we met in person. We met a couple of times over Zoom, but we'll talk more about that. Yeah. But you might recognise Matt from a recent video that Peloton did with LFC, and showing you around, showing you the equipment that the Liverpool players use, the Peloton stuff that they use there, and just generally having a wonderful time. And you come in to talk about it, so thanks a lot, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, brilliant to be here. So, and see you in person too. Yeah, nice one.
Because we were sort of semi-involved in how it all come about, but in your words, how did this incredible experience happen?
So, yeah, I've got a Peloton. I listen to the Anfield Wrap, and obviously the sponsorship with you guys kicked off. And
there's a nice little community of us now, isn't there, of Anfield Wrap listeners who all used Peloton. And for me, I was new on it, so getting tips from people like yourselves was really nice. But there's a good gang of us, isn't there? Yeah,
it's excellent, and there's a couple of challenges which are set, and that's how this came about, because there was the Ride to Rio challenge after Engamo's amazing goal against Newcastle. So, and that's really what got me engaged with seeing the opportunities there with Liverpool and Peloton together. And yeah, it introduced me to a competition which, I was lucky enough to win.
Yeah, so everyone who managed to, we collectively did the Ride to Rio. We actually got all the way to Rio and back. There was that many of us doing it by the end, and people signing up and getting involved. The aim was to collectively ride the distance to Rio, but we got all the way there and back. But lots of people entered, and to be honest, we just passed, it's not thanks to me, we just passed all the emails on to Peloton, and they whittled it down and picked you to have what turned out to be a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So they invited me along to the AXA training centre, and I enter these things. You never think you're going to win. You never really do win, but this time I did, and it was unbelievable. I just didn't expect it was going to happen.
So what were your emotions like driving up on the day? Because I've been lucky enough to go a couple of times. You feel like a footballer almost driving up, and then you realise your car's not quite as nice.
Well, there's 2 entrances, and I did go to the players one first and get told, no, you're not coming in this one.
Not today, maybe next time, yeah.
So no, I got in, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, I was giddy the days before, just thinking about what am I going to say, what am I going to wear, who am I going to meet. I had no idea, and so exciting. Yeah.
But you were obviously there, you were put to work effectively by Peloton, wasn't there? Not just there for a nice time. They were creating this content around, as I say, the uses of the bikes and how how Peloton's used at the AXA, but you had to use some of your experience to capture a bit of content, which must have been nerve-wracking.
Yeah, they wanted me to almost document some of the experience of the day, what's going on around, explore some of the equipment that they use there as well. And yeah, it was daunting. It's not something that I do on a day-to-day. So being asked to do it was a little bit of a challenge, but it was just exciting. So I must have seen a lot of things that day and spoken to a lot of people that maybe I shouldn't have, because I just thought, let's make the most of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And go and say hello to everyone I saw. And then I got to meet some of the players as well as all the people from Peloton, and it was amazing, honestly.
So any surprises happen on the day? Anything happen that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that I was going to be meeting a few of the players, because I knew I was going to be there and I was going to be seeing some of the equipment that they use, which I use as well, which is great. So it's nice to see that it's all the same gear that we're using. But I got to see a little bit of the entrance and where we go. And then when I bumped into Curtis Jones, he just said, "Well, have you seen all the first team area?" I was like, "Well, no, it's restricted. You can't go in there." And he said, "Come on then."
So that's in the video, but that was real. Yeah, it was just him just going like,
It was just genuine. He was just said, "Listen, come on, let's go show you." And I got to see all the, the coffee bar, which you see on the socials. And, these are things that you get to see on social media or on the screen, but you never think, I'm going to be there. I'm going to mill around and see what's going on. So I got in the boot room as well and got to see all the pitches and the paddle games that they play outside. And yeah, that was probably the biggest surprise, seeing all of that as well.
Yeah.
It was great.
So then you have the day, you go away. I'm interested, before the video come out, did they give you a little sneak peek, or were you just like the rest of us watching it come out on the socials on the day?
So the day it came out, I hadn't seen anything at this point. And I got a phone call off my wife, and she was just hysterical. I was taking the kids out. I just get this phone call, and she's there going, "It's up! Your video's up! Your film's up! You're at Liverpool! It's amazing!"
Oh, that's so cool. So you didn't even know what day it was coming out? It was a complete surprise.
Know. They gave me an idea of when it might come out,
Yeah.
but it felt like just a great Christmas present, because that's when it came out.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
Yeah, it was amazing to see it. And the reactions that I've had off the back of it, it's been brilliant.
Well, you must have had mates who, because you've not seen, didn't even know you'd done it, and suddenly, there's Liverpool fans or fans of whoever you're mates with going like, "That's Matt,"
Yeah.
and then messaging you going, "You're mate, you're mates with Curtis Jones."
Honestly, I sent it out to so many people because I was like showing off, thinking this is just amazing. I was so happy with how they did it, and it's caught some of my favourite moments, and I was there for quite a while, and I saw some other things as well that were just brilliant behind the scenes, but that video just captures all the great moments. And yeah, some of my mates afterwards, I took my son to football, bumped into someone, and he was just like, "It's the guy from the telly, it's the guy who's working with Liverpool." And I was just like, "Oh yeah, that's me." And so everyone's asking how my mates are doing, Curtis Jones and Gakpo and Chiesa, and they're just like, "How are they?" I'm like, "Oh yeah."
It sounds like everyone was just really pleased for you, because obviously you're a lovely fella, Matt, and when nice things happen to nice people, people are happy. So it just sounds like everyone in your life, or even the people you just know a little bit, were just really pleased that you got this experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. I saw some comments coming through on socials, and everyone saying it was amazing how lucky I was, and I really did feel lucky. It's not something I'd ever thought that I'd get to do, not somewhere I'd ever think I'd get to go. And so to see it was just, it was amazing. And all the feedback I've had has just been how lucky I am. And honestly, I do feel it.
So how do you reflect on the whole thing? Because like you say, you heard the competition on the Anfield Wrap, you thought, I'll get stuck in, never thought it'd happen, and then it does. So how do you reflect on the whole thing, a few months on?
Well, Liverpool is just, it's been such a part of my life. Ever since I was a little kid, Dad brought me up, Liverpool fan, made sure of that, and it's just amazing to see the club coming together. And Peloton means a lot to me as well, because I've suffered with some injuries, and I use Peloton as a way to get myself back to fitness, and I've kept going at it because it's been brilliant. So to see the two of them come together and deliver me this incredible day was just fantastic, and so it's going to go down as one of the best memories of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge shout out to Peloton, because since they partnered with us, they wanted to make really nice things happen for good people like Matt, and it's been really nice to share some of these with our community and pass them on to other people. And so, yeah, it's been really cool. So thanks to them for coming through us to give this experience. They could have just filmed something and acted, but they wanted to get fans involved. They wanted to get an Anfield Wrap listener involved, and I think it turned out pretty well. So Matt, top man, thanks a lot for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, John. Cheers.
Okay, excellent stuff there. Thank you very much to Matt and Peloton and Liverpool for all the work that's gone on there across the board. Listen, very, very quickly, album of the week is Bill Callahan, My Days of 58, out on Friday. Well, again, bit more experimental, but quite acoustic. You know, you'll be fine. Don't be worrying. Think new things, different things.
I still haven't done the Charlie XCX one yet.
You haven't done yourself the Wuthering Heights?
That's going on the way home.
You want to get on to the business, but Bill Callahan, I've been a long time fan of Bill's work. My Days of 58. I think you'll be fine. Honestly, trust me. Come with it. See where you end up. Enjoy a little bit of that. It was only out on Friday as well, so you've not missed out. You can jump on there, and then if you like that, there's a hell of a lot of output to go and get into, going all the way back to his time at Smog as well. I want to also mention our tour in Australia. Hugely excited, is approaching, getting closer and closer, isn't it, Kieran?
Closer and closer. I'm getting excited now myself.
Yeah, but I'm going for a pint on Thursday to plan the shows 100%, which we're also looking forward to. What a pint that'll be. So that's coming up on Thursday as well.
Pint of 4X.
Yeah, the 4X. Just get completely in the mood. So what we're going to do is we go out. It's during the March international break. We'll actually be in Sydney for when Liverpool kick off the game against Brighton. So we'll be around there with the supporters club in Sydney. And then we're Sunday night in Sydney. Then it's Tuesday night. 2 shows in Melbourne, back to back. Then we go to New Zealand, which we're exceptionally excited about on the Wednesday, to Auckland. Spend a little bit of time in New Zealand as well, because how often for the rest of my life will I get to go to New Zealand? We'll find that out. And then it kicks in big time. We are Friday night at Brisbane, Saturday night at Adelaide, and Sunday night at Perth to round it all off. So that takes us all the way through. I think it's until Sunday the 29th of March. Do get tickets if you can. The AnfieldWrap.com/TAW live, and you'll be able to see the full menu there, whichever of those that you fancy as we get ourselves along. All right. Mention the bigger picture before, Andy. As I say, we are recording before United and Chelsea play. Any idea that Newcastle come with a run now, I think, is just seems impossible. Seems exceptionally unlikely for them. This game coming up against Wolves, part of why Villa suddenly look vulnerable is because Wolves got a result against them. And I think it's worth us bearing in mind. That's not an excuse. It's just, there was a period this season where Wolves looked very bottom. They don't look like that at the minute. They're able to play, I think, with a little bit of abandon. They're able to play with a little bit of freedom because they know the die's cast. But they can still be, as I phrased them the other day, a bit like a loose horse in the National. They'll take a bit of watching, I think.
Well, I believe the win on Friday night means that they're officially not going to be the worst Premier League team ever. They've got themselves 13 points now. So
I'd expect them to break 20.
Well, yeah, I think so as well. And there were all sorts of comparisons going. The XG difference table at about Christmas, where they were actually only a point behind Villa, and in fact they had 2 points, and Villa were like 2 points off the top of the league. And so I think there is an element they've been a little bit unlucky. I don't think they're very good. I think Liverpool are going to win both games. I would be very clear about that. How much of the motivation will have been breaking those 11 points? I'm not sure. They've obviously got it now. Will they? What ultimately are they playing for now? They're not the worst team of all time, and they're not going to stay up. There's no chance of either of those things happening. So,
do you think for them the bigger game's Friday? Because I think we'd all agree for us the bigger game's Tuesday because of what we want, long-term ambitions. But do you think it's a bit of a funny one this, where for them the bigger game is actually Friday? Because they could still get to a cup semi-final. You know, they get to the quarter-final, and the way the draw is, they're one game away from Wembley. And then, you know, I'm not going to do the whole you never know. Wigan did win the cup and go down. But I do sort of wonder for them. I think it might have been a bit different before they break the record and before they get the results against Villa. But I do just sort of wonder, what does Molyneux fancy?
No. Well, I mean, make something of the season. Like when you look at the draw, you're right to point it out. It's like, I think Newcastle play Man City, so one of them are going to go out. I think can't remember who Arsenal have got.
Mansfield.
Arsenal have got Mansfield, but there's a couple of games in there. So I think it's Leeds against Norwich, and I think is it Port Vale against Bristol City. I mean, that's a nice quarter final if you can get past Liverpool on the Friday night. So yeah, they're going to have to make something of this season, and ultimately the position they've found themselves in has allowed them to make some changes, to bring some players in. The lad Mateus Mane looks very good. He's only 18, 19, I think. They've got plenty of young, exciting players there, and I wouldn't be overly worried if I was a Wolves fan going down in the Championship next season. Obviously, we'll see what happens there. But they've got to make something of it. I think Tuesday night they'll fancy having a crack at us. I think they'll come out and play. I think Rob Edwards stalls that. And I don't think, for some reason, I just feel like one of these two games is going to be really comfortable win for Liverpool, and one of these two games is going to be absolutely horrible. I don't know which one's going to be which. But they don't like us an awful lot down there. They'll fancy having a crack at us. They've nothing to lose. Exciting young players, and we'll need to be on our game because, as Arsenal showed the other week, they're capable of getting points off big teams.
Yep, and as they showed against Villa, Keo, I think the manager's got a couple of decisions that he's likely to have to make around fitness stresses. But we now know this manager enough to know there's every chance he just go same again.
I was about to say that.
That's what you think he'll do?
Yeah. Before you said that, I was thinking he'll go same again. Obviously, we've seen Frimpong come back on the pitch. And we want to see him back in the side, but we've just talked about Joe Gomez and what he brings, and he's now got 60-70 minutes under his belt. I think he will go unchanged. I don't think that we'll say the same for the Friday night. I think Friday night you might see more of an FA Cup team. You might see a Rio Ngamoa start. You might even see, Ekitike rested, and Neoni in the side. You might see like Gakpo through the middle or something a little bit different. But yeah, I think you'll go unchanged. I don't know what Wolves we're going to get, whether that sort of checkpoint of not being the worst Premier League side in history sort of makes them go, thank God for that, like I'm not bothered anymore, let's just look at that cup and try and get a day to Wembley, or whether they now start playing with a little bit more freedom because the pressure's off in that sense. I'm hoping it's the former, and Liverpool can just sort of go down there and play a team that knows they're getting relegated, and that's the really easy one. Yeah. But I agree with Andy, Liverpool should be looking at both of them games and thinking, this should be light work.
Do you think you go unchanged?
I think for the first game, yeah. I'm more worried about the second game. I'm a bit with Andy, where I think one of them will be pretty straightforward, not great to watch, but I think Liverpool will just nullify them and just do what they need to do. But that second game, I'm a bit more worried, and I think their motivation, you're right to point out they've reached that mark, but when you are good the next season, you generally start off the season before, and I think their motivation will be to get some really, really good moments for the rest of the season.
They've got to think they're going to keep the manager, you know what I mean? That's part of what he must have come in knowing he's going to be next season's manager.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously they're just beating Aston Villa, which is a derby for them, so I just think moments. I think I spoke about it at the beginning of the show, that sometimes you're in football for moments, aren't you? And I think for the rest of the season, you see the Wolves fans are right behind them when they're giving a go. I was impressed with them at Anfield in the second half on Boxing Day. Yeah. To be fair, I've been impressed with most teams at Anfield this season, which is not a good thing.
Not West Ham, then.
Not West Ham. No, so I do think they're a much better side than where they are, but Liverpool should beat them. I would go with the same team. I'll just reiterate, I do think it's just that Friday one's a bit more dodgy, especially because you've got Galatasaray on the Tuesday.
That'll be in the mindset. I think the key part about this is, to Andy's point before about getting the points on the board now, because the fixtures do become more difficult, but then you could well get into a situation where, I'd never say this under normal circumstances, and I probably wouldn't be saying it running up to the game, but there'd be worse things than a point against Chelsea if you're 5 points clear of Chelsea. Absolutely. Yeah. There'd be worse things than a point against Villa if you're 4 points clear of Villa. It's the second to last game. Yeah. A point at Old Trafford. If you've got to, that's only the case, Pete, if you put the points on the board.
No, I was thinking the same the other day, because we've got the fixtures right in front of us now, and these fixtures are so crucial. So people talk about can Liverpool win the Champions League, and it might be a bit fanciful where we're like, oh yeah, well, we're just saying that because we've won how many European Cups and so on. But realistically, if Liverpool are going to contend in a Champions League semi-final, for say, they need to put these games to bed now.
Some momentum.
Yeah, get momentum, but you not to have the pressure in the league. So, for example, it was the 2021 season when Alisson scored that header. We actually finished third, didn't we? I mean, we went away to Old Trafford and whacked them 4-2 or something like that. And people don't talk about, actually, we were much better at that moment than needed to be. Than we was. But if you think about now, going into the latter part of the season, if you've secured Champions League football for next season, listen, I hate Man United more. I challenge anyone to find me someone who hates Man United more than me, but if you get beat 2-0 or 3-0 at Old Trafford because you've changed your team, but you're in the Champions League semi-final, that's the position that Liverpool need to be in, and that's why beating Wolves this Tuesday and then Tottenham, the game after that, is so important.
I wonder if he might do Jones in for Gakpo have it start a little bit different against Wolves, a little bit of a longer term plan there. Could be wrong, but I do sort of, it was striking to me that Gakpo gets the physical batter of the full 90. It is a bit of a quick turnaround to Tuesday, and I wonder if he might have an eye on that. But whatever he does, Andy, the thing that to me looks like it's changed is, to me the club just looks like it's not that interested in hiding places. They show a ton of resilience at Forest after what was a dreadful first half. They show a ton of resilience. They end up having the hard lines of one of the McAllister goals being disallowed. They come again. They're off the back of a good result against Sunderland away from home as well. In a comparable side, no disrespect to anybody, in that a comparable side away from home. When you say one of them could be horrible, I think they've got horrible in them now in a way that I just don't think they did 3 months ago.
They get to tell themselves a little bit of a story over the next couple of games. I think there's an opportunity to do that there because, albeit it is the worst team in the league twice, it is still 2 away games, and if you come out the back of it with 2 wins, obviously 3 points and through the quarterfinals of the Cup, then you get to go into that Galatasaray game with a lot of confidence, and you get to go to Galatasaray and show that you've improved from October or November or whenever it was that we played them and they beat us 1-0. And then you get to bring them back down. All of a sudden, we're winning away games. We're winning tough physical away games against these teams. We're showing that we've beaten a team that we maybe, if we do get the job done against Galatasaray in the first game, that we didn't in October. And I just think that builds the confidence that will have us ultimately. Firstly, I think there will be a gap between us and either Chelsea or United, maybe both, by the time we play them. But also just a shift in confidence for us. And a team there that knows that it's not going to be a false dawn. There's not going to be this 3-0 home defeat out of nowhere when we look like we're playing quite well. It is actually a bit of form now, and we are this football team, because I do think, as poor as it's been, and as poor as the squad man has been this season, we are still in the top 5 best teams in this league. I think we're the 3rd best team in the league, to be completely honest. I think we're a distant 3rd right now, but we are the 3rd best team in the league, and we've started to show it. I think there's a real good opportunity now. Obviously, it's Wolverhampton, then Istanbul, which is a quite crazy sort of week of fixtures, or 7 days of fixtures as it is. But there's opportunities to frame it positively there, and tell yourselves a story, get 3 wins, lads, and we're flying going into those games.
Okay, thank you very much to Ash, who sorted this out on a Sunday, and to Pete, Andy and Kieran as well for all coming in on Sunday for the Anfield Wrap. Big week, big Tuesday, big Friday, big Tuesday. Pressure on the Reds to go and get results, but we fancy that. We're going to take it easy now. Enjoy Arsenal versus Chelsea, which is one of those wonderful games that has no bad outcome. And you can just relax into and laugh at everybody as they settle themselves down. Fair play to the team that are top of the league for making themselves a bit of a national laughing stock. That's their decision, and that's what they've decided to go with. In the meantime, this is the Anfield Wrap, and we leave you with one strong message. Hi ho, Wolverhampton.